Hi everybody, I hope you're well. As you may know, our current exhibition is titled In the Gardens of Persia, and today we will take a look at one of the rare books that is part of the show. It is titled Flights Over Ancient Cities of Iran by German archaeologist Erich Schmidt and was published by the University of Chicago Press in 1940. In exploring Iran, the photography of Erich Schmidt, Ayse Gürsan-Salzmann wrote, Schmidt's professional life spanned a 40-year period, from his first job at New York's American Museum of Natural History in 1924 to his semi-retirement from the University of Chicago as research professor several years before his death in 1964. He dedicated a full 15 years to field work, starting in Arizona, then in Turkey, Iraq, and Iran. After 1939, he concentrated on his writing and research. At the time of his death, he was writing the last volume on his excavations at Persepolis, 1935-1939. Schmidt's aerial explorations are of singular importance in archaeological research for that period, as they clearly opened a new era in survey methodology in recording sites that could be easily missed during land surveys. In the 1930s, aerial surveys were very rare. A couple of examples are Père Antoine Poidebar's aerial survey of Roman walls in Syria and Colonel Charles Lindbergh's and Alfred Kidder's discovery from the air of Maya ruins in Central America. Schmidt's flights encompassed almost all of Iran, from Ray to Persepolis to Luristan in 1935-1936. His last 3 flights were over Azerbaijan in the northwest, the Turkoman Plain, Damgan, and the Asterabad Plains in the north, and Luristan in the west. Schmidt launched a well-planned, extensive program which was funded through the Aerial Research Foundation established by Mary Ellen, his wife. Schmidt and his loyal photographer Boris Dubensky conducted the surveys from the camera-equipped Waco cabin twin-engine plane christened Friend of Iran, flown by Levin Baringer in 1935-36 and William Benn in 1937. Frederick Lilek was its mechanic and technical assistant. In accordance with the permit, a lieutenant of the Iranian Air Forces accompanied the flights. The aerial photographic operations had 3 components: flights over excavations already in progress, the aerial documentation and mapping of sites, and reconnaissance flights over Iran's archaeologically unknown areas. Flying over sites provide a more comprehensive view of the terrain and its topography, essentially what Schmidt had missed in his land surveys. In a letter of April 4, 1936, to George Edgell, director of the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, Schmidt outlined his well-planned flight strategy for a combined air and land survey over Pasargadae, Cyrus the Great's capital near Persepolis. During our last flight, we circled again over Pasargadae. There are some awfully good-looking hillocks which have yet not been touched, close to 2 white fire altars. In a few days, on our return flight to Tehran, I shall take aerial photos and analyze the deposits by means of enlargements. Then we shall make a trip overland and check up. Aerial documentation was also cost-efficient. While the Ray and Persepolis expeditions were in progress, Schmidt would be shuttling from one to the other in 4 hours, a distance of nearly 600 kilometers, which would have taken 2 days by car to cross. In one long flight of 13 hours, Schmidt had pinpointed and documented an overwhelming number of 400 sites around Persepolis. At times he would fly his staff to see a bird's eye view of the excavations in progress. He had also discovered that he was able to draw with some accuracy the topographic map of a site from its aerial photo showing excavation plots, provided that the photographs corresponded to excavations on the ground. To match them, he marked base points on the ground using quadrants of 100 square meters, subdivided into 10 by 10 meter excavation plots, as he had done previously at Tepe Izar. Then, on the air photo showing these base points, he could draw lines to connect points to excavation plot lines. The result was a grid of squares from which the excavator could determine quickly and accurately where to start digging. These surveys represent the culmination of Schmidt's archaeological knowledge and experience, his insights about the geographic diversity of the Iranian landscape and its historical depth. They also demonstrate his innovative spirit and his perseverance to realize his idealism against the political realities of the period. In a letter to Edgell, July 10, 1935, Schmidt referred to the permit to import the plane into Iran. The most difficult task of my archaeological career, namely the realization of the aerial department of the expedition. After 2 refusals from the Shah Reza Khan while the plane was grounded in Alexandria, Egypt, Schmidt finally received a permit to import the plane and approval for his flights, after he had hosted the Shah and his son in Persepolis, following persistent efforts of high-ranking bureaucrats in Iran and those in the US State Department. Having accomplished the monumental task of an extensive aerial reconnaissance, in 1940 Schmidt published the results in Flights over the Ancient Cities of Iran, dedicated to his wife, Mary Helen. It is an impressive linen-bound folio, now out of print. In the retrospect section of the book, Schmidt wrote, "The flying archaeologist gains infinite joy and satisfaction from his combined tasks in the air and on the ground." The Flights book is an invaluable documentation of sites as well as a photographic oeuvre of striking artistry. Its black and white photographs recreate certain moods of a landscape, the shades of gray against nuances of light and shadow. He captures the sites in their total environment, including geographical, geological, and archaeological features. Along with an introductory text, detailed captions provide each photograph with a name, date, altitude, latitude and longitude, weather conditions, and even time of day when taken. Dubensky and Schmidt took the aerial photos as vertical and oblique views to complement and enhance his previous ground surveys of some of the same regions. Sometimes the flight crew was able to land the plane near a site or so close to it that they could combine observations from air and ground. Each day, Schmidt and his crew started the flight before sunrise in order to catch the best light conditions within the next 2 hours. He noted that the ground survey, requiring several months and considerable expenditures, is displaced by the air map, complete in a few days, or, if need be, in a few hours. He summed up his method of combined observations in the retrospect section of the Flights. The vertical air view gives the excavator his map and he can plan his operations intelligently. Surface clues, often invisible from the ground but seen from above, guide the explorer in his overland voyages. Our eyes have become trained to see remains of antiquity where formerly we disregarded odd discolorations of the surface of the earth. These aerial photos are as dramatic as they are useful records of sites in uncharted territories, some situated in widely rugged terrain which even Schmidt's Luristan expedition members would not have dared to enter. Many scholars maintain that the 1930s were a turning point in Near Eastern archaeology, a period of transformation from treasure hunting to establishing a systematic academic discipline. Schmidt unquestionably contributed to that transformation. As a pioneer in applying systematic excavation and recording methods, conducting regional survey rather than concentrating on a single site, he was essentially interested in writing a comprehensive cultural history of the regions where he worked. To him, descriptions of excavated objects, their technology and the materials from which they were made were as important as their cultural and environmental contexts. He enlisted geologists and other experts to analyze metals, seeds, and human and animal bones in order to provide scientific evidence to support his interpretations. Few archaeologists of his generation understood, as he did, the importance of uncovering prehistoric sites in a region so as to investigate the prehistoric cultural predecessors of the historical sites of monumental dimensions. It is important to bear in mind that these images are conveyed through the eyes of outsiders, Schmitz and company, people of Western culture discovering a little-known world. Schmidt's archival photographs open a window upon the Iranians of the past century, their history and culture. At the same time, the correspondence and other archival documents offer a rich resource for understanding a history of archaeological work in the region on which our present and future research stand. Come by and visit the exhibition. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.